push the fetish of the first too much. That there's almost never like a clearly identifiable "this is the first," because things develop slowly in false starts and patterns and so on. But I'm much happier with saying an early example.
Very good. This is really interesting. And tell my listeners what else they're going to learn when they read your book, Murray.
Well, another thing that I got very interested in was, again, sticking with X-rays, the idea of the eroticization of the X-ray imagery. And this may sound so counterintuitive because skeletons are not particularly sexy, right? At least not to most people, I would imagine. But as they were received in the 1890s, many thought of them as a kind of nudity, a kind of extreme nudity. So that this circulated in popular culture in cartoons and newspaper cartoons, and people wrote kind of facetious poems about how obscene X-rays are. And this kind of, I think, ties in with the representations of women in very early cinema as well. Again, in Méliès's work, which derives from his practice as a magician. But the first trick film that Méliès made, The Vanishing Woman, is about him taking his mistress, in fact she was his mistress, onto a stage and making her disappear, and then instead of bringing her back, he accidentally brings back a skeleton, and then like he makes the skeleton disappear and brings her back. Everybody bows, like walks off the stage. It's a very theatrical kind of thing, drawn directly from a stage magic trick, but with the skeleton as a kind of almost a goofy sort of like, here's a kind of come back wrong without clothes, without even skin sort of thing. There's a peculiar kind of erotic inflection to all of it.
All right, and are you going to be working on anything else concerning the supernatural anytime soon? Or
Yes.
what other projects are you working on?
Absolutely, yeah. I've got a kind of a slow-burning project which more directly examines the intersections of spiritualism in the 20th century spiritualism with cinema. So I spent some time in the UK reading through spiritualist journals in the teens and 20s, and what I was particularly interested in was the fact that there were anti-spiritualist films being made. They would have names like Spiritualism Exposed and stuff like that. And so the spiritualists weren't happy about this, and they managed to pressure the production companies and things like that to change things a little. And so they end up with names like Fake Spiritualism Exposed and Fraudulent Spiritualism Exposed. And because, the spiritualists didn't dispute the existence of fake spiritualism, they just didn't want to have everything they did passed under that banner. So that's a project which I really should move to the front burner. I also have so much to do with teaching and everything, because I found some really, really interesting stuff when going through the archives. And that was at Arthur Findlay College, which is the headquarters of the Spiritualist National Union in the UK. They were so generous with their time and allowing me to see their resources, and I got some great stuff, which I've unfortunately not gotten around to publishing yet. But that's something I will hopefully do soon.
And this book here, Murray, is in the Library of Congress, correct?
I think so.
You got a number on here.
Yeah, okay. So pretty much every book that's published by a large publisher ends up in there. So that's kind of nice to think about. I've done research in the Library of Congress,
That's
so that was
awesome.
a great place to do research.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of nice to be in there for sure.
Absolutely, and this is great, man. Murray, why don't you tell my listeners where they can find out more information about you or keep up with any other projects you're working on?
Yeah, so I probably best maintain a presence at academia.edu. You can Google me there, and I update that whenever I have a new publication. And otherwise, I'd say perhaps just look for me on Facebook or I guess just Facebook at this point.
All right, the book is called The Modern Supernatural at the Beginnings of Cinema. Murray Leader, my special guest. Murray, many blessings to you. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks. This was great, Keita.
To find out more about our guest and all others, please visit our website at mysteriousradio.com. And I want to give
evidence can be found in the files of the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, the Center for UFO Studies, and other organizations that will open such reports. The National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, headed by Donald Keel, is noted for rejecting most documented reports. APRO and CUFOS are no longer active organizations. Many others have disbanded. But reports from as recent as this year, 2021, can be found in the databases of the National UFO Reporting Center and the Mutual UFO Network. What's missing is news coverage and documentation beyond witness testimony from most UFO actually has a document case in the January 2021 issue of the MUFON Journal. A witness reported that on July 2nd, 2020, at 3 a.m., he was in his car with a girlfriend in Newcastle, Colorado. Drifting off the sea, indeed, almost too short to move the car, pinned in his window. The body was a few inches wide, and the head was like an old-fashioned iron. It had oblong black eyes with a red strip in the center. The witness looked up to the passengers and saw another apparently identical figure sitting there. Reacting by punching the image, it disappeared, leaving the witness with a sore head as proof of physical contact. Having struggled against the paralyzing force throughout the encounter, the witness managed to overcome it, sound the car alarm, and wake his girlfriend. Together, they rushed to the sparks as he lodged into himself sight. The case was closed by Colorado MUFON field investigator Richard Evans as an unknown other. The MUFON case investigated less than 4 years ago actually had newspaper coverage. The article, with the headline "Alien in My Backyard," written by Janelle Herrera, was posted March 19, 2019, on the South Florida Sun Sentinel website. It tells the story of Trish Bishop of Kissimmee, Florida. She had just returned home from work when she noticed something strange in the woods in the her backyard. A 6-foot by 8-foot back, 30 feet long, was shimmering like water. Tears that might have been weather effect until it moved towards her. Technically stopped. In a matter of minutes, the feeling materialized in the ground below. He went from being transparent to solid as he climbed up the invisible staircase, pulling himself along and ascended what seemed to be an invisible room. He was muscular, between 6'3" and 6'5", which is short. He had off-white elevator skin. He was wearing a non-metal, long-white dress. What made Miss Bishop think he was non-human were his eyes and jaw. His eyes were white, with black pupils, bulging to the point Bishop thought he might not be able to close them. Describing his jaw, she said, "If you compare a human jawbone to his, we would be a chihuahua to a pit bull." When he got to the top of the stairs, he switched to a rock climbing movement, pulled himself up into the shimmering air, and disappeared. Miss Bishop reported this case to Florida MUFON 4 years later, and gave the date of the eclipse as March 16, 2013. The case file is 84886. MUFON advised Miss Bishop to purchase a trailer. She did. She sent them pictures, some of which they described as another case. Richard Cunningham posted October 9, 2009, Telegraph website, is an article by Alice Jameson, headline, "UFO Police Officer Sees Aliens in Concert." The case was investigated by Colin Edwards after he got a call from the Wilshire Police Constable the sergeant was driving past Seabury July 6, 2009. Seabury is the largest police and official charter in the As he drove by, the sergeant saw what at first assumed three forensic officers dressed in white coveralls examining the field for information. He stopped, got out of his car, and approached the figures. They appeared to be men, all over 6 feet tall, and had long blonde hair. He heard a sound not unlike the sound of electricity. It seemed to come from all over the field. The hair on his arms and the back of his neck stood up. He shouted at the creatures, and they ignored him. As he entered the field, they looked up, and the man ran faster than any man they'd ever seen. He described that it was like watching a video fast forward. Sometime later, the sergeant saw a large orange robe hovering near his home, but then shot away as he observed. The officer also reported polarizing his host of electrical malfunctions. Some readers may notice that the description of the creatures matches white sun near the tree appeared and occupied seen by a witness in Goffstown, New Hampshire, Monday. This case was reported in the January-February 1974 APRO Bulletin. 1973 was a big year for UFO occupants. It was the year of the famous Pascagoula, Mississippi abduction of Calvin Parker. 1980s cases, the Pascagoula incident received international news coverage and is still discussed today. So, reports of UFO occupants that don't fit what is the standard model are still prevalent and occasionally show up in the mainstream press. The illusion that they've gone away seems to be the reporting bias. UFOs that might possibly be of extraterrestrial origin have become more accepted in the press these days than they were a few years ago. But reports of occupants seem to cross the line. Throughout UFO history, this has been a cycle, so maybe occupants will become more press-free in the future. It's possible, because with UFO history, as with history in general, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
To find out more about our guest and all others, please visit our website at mysteriousradio.com. And I want to give special thanks to our co-creator and executive producer, Kim Kyle, who brought this show to you today. And working hard behind the scenes, our team of 4, I want to thank them as well. Follow us on social media and share the show with others that may like the subjects that we cover. I am your host, K-Town, and you're listening to Mysterious Radio.
How's it going?
fads, newspaper reporters rival any intelligence officer when it comes to digging up the facts, and there was always a possibility that they would uncover in turn something that we'd missed. For T, the UFO researcher John Keel, author of the 1975 book Mothman Hypothesis, was known to have used news clipping services in his work as a journalist and a reporter specializing in 15 subject matter. According to his friend, Lauren Coleman, in 2009 obituary Coleman wrote after Keel's death, Keel subscribed to several news clipping services. Coleman reports that Keel would sometimes get 150 clippings in a single day during the 1966-1967 UFO flight. This must have been expensive and time-consuming for Keel and others who made use of multiple services, but an alternative was just a couple of years away. Roderick Dyke was 17 in 1969 and was the director of the UFO Research Committee. Even at that young age, he was an active investigator. One case he looked into here involved a film of UFOs captured by a Vallejo Junior College student in 1958. Documents related to the case dating back to 1969 are preserved online at the NICAP site. These include Dyke's correspondence regarding the film on stationery with the UFO RC letterhead. There is a letter to the student, Clifford DeLacy, discussing analysis of the film, and another to Dr. Robert N. L. Baker regarding his use of the film in the American Association for the Advancement of Science presentation. In May of that year, Dyke put out the very first issue of the UFO News Clipping Service under the typewritten title Monthly Clipping Service. Dyke informs his subscribers that there are only 8 of them at the moment, and that he needs at least 2 more to continue. From this issue until issue 89, the publication is under the umbrella of the UFO Research Committee. With issue number 90, the publication is under the umbrella of the Clearinghouse for UFO News and Information. Issue number 1 consists of 15 photocopied pages filled with clippings, many from other clipping services, never before published 1969 UFO statistics from Project Blue Book, and 3 pages of historic clippings from 1947, which include 2 that mention Kenneth Orman signing. It's an amateur publication, but throughout the years it takes on a more professional look. In the first issue, Dyke thanks an associate who provided him with clippings from Australia. And in the second, he thanks a contributor who provided clippings from Canada, and one can see the beginnings of a network for him.
Let's see that truck backing up.
According to the supplement written by David Mahler and included in the 40th anniversary issue, Dyke started looking for someone to take over as editor, and that person ended up being Lucius Farish. Farish took over with issue 99, while Dyke remained as a contributor. At this point, there is no umbrella to be named, and the UFO News Clipping Service stands on its own. Farish was a longtime UFO researcher, and in addition to being the editor of the UFO News Clipping Service, Farish became the organizer and host of the Ozark UFO Conference in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. In 2007, the responsibility of taking on both tasks became too much, and in December, Farish passed editorship responsibilities back to Dyke, who carried on in that role until 2009. By this time, Dyke no longer had to cut and paste by hand, as home computers had long since become ubiquitous. In December of 2008, Dyke emailed David Mahler, telling him he was on a very short list of people he'd like to take over for him. The two had been in touch for several years, through correspondence and exchanging, buying, and selling UFO-related memorabilia. Mahler describes both himself and Dyke as avid collectors. Mahler took over as editor in 2009 with issue 407. Mahler kept the publication going until 2011 and put out the final issue, number 505, in August of that year. On the first page of issue 505, there is a message from Dyke. Dyke sums up the history of the over 44-year run of the UFO News Clipping Service and tells the reader that in that time over 10,000 pages were printed containing over 30,000 clippings. He emphasizes that there was no editorializing throughout the publication's history. According to Mahler, the UFO News Clipping Service subscribers list was a veritable who's who of ufology, which is a testament as to its value among UFO researchers. While the service is no longer available to investigators of contemporary cases, every issue of the publication is available online for historical researchers. Just the thing for good indoor activity on a cold winter day.
To find out more about our guest and all others, please visit our website at mysteriousradio.com. want to give special thanks to our co-creator and executive producer, Kim Kyle, who brought this show to you today. And working hard behind the scenes, our team of 4, I want to thank them as well. Follow us on social media and share the show with others that may like the subjects that we cover. I am your host, K-Town, and you're listening to Mysterious Radio. Hi there, I'm K-Town, and on this edition of Mysterious Radio.
Give me 1 sec.
Possibly under the guidance of alien pilots, researchers have long looked to photographs. There are some, such as the McMinnville photographs, that have become classics that continue to spark debate. Many have been passed through time by newspaper articles, books, magazines, documentaries, and websites. Of course, along with the photo, there is also the story of the photographer, though getting that story straight might prove difficult. In October of 1952, the story went across the news wires that a man in Italy claimed to have taken pictures of a flying saucer and its occupant while climbing in the Bernina section of the Italian Alps. He told reporters that he saw a flying saucer land on a glacier. According to him, a human shape wearing some sort of diving suit got out, walked around the ship, and then got back in. The saucer rose up, and it took off without a sound at breathtaking speed. He said he sold the photos to a French magazine. The man was 29-year-old Italian engineer Pietro Mangruzzi. pictures are presented in the September-October 1958 issue of Flying Saucer Review. According to the article, Manguzzi takes saucer photos of the century, written by Lou Zinstad. Manguzzi, first name given as Giampiero by Zinstad, worked as an engineer at Monza near Milan and was a member of the Edison Society of Italy. On July 31st, 1952, he was hiking in the Bernina Mountains with his wife when they came across an object shaped like a flying saucer sitting on a glacier. Manguzzi wanted to get closer, but his wife was frightened and insisted he stay with her. He did so, and took a series of pictures showing the saucer on the ground, a humanoid walking around it, and two excellent photos of the ship's departure. Manguzzi ended up with a total of 7 photos. At the top of the article, in a photo with the number 2 written on it, the saucer and the humanoid are both seen to have antennas. According to the article, Manguzzi and his wife returned to Milan, excited by the prospect of selling the pictures for a good price. Manguzzi showed the pictures to friends, his managers, and some newspapers, but he wasn't believed. The manager was the leading figure of the Edison Society. A violent controversy erupted in the society, and Manguzzi was not only ousted from the Edison Society, but lost his job as well. A newspaper article from 1953 tells the story differently. On March 3rd, 1953, Perth, Western Australia, Sunday Times,
Head off.
this headline on the front page of its magazine section. Real story of the flying saucer and the man from Mars. Underneath is a subheadline, Worldwide Pictorial Hoax. In this version of the tale, where Manguzzi's age is given as 26, and meanwhile, in Milan, the news behind the story, cables were sent to agents in other countries, and offers for the photos started coming in, going up to 15,000 pounds a time. The bidding stopped when Manguzzi and his wife, Penuccia, burst out laughing. The story came out that Giampiero had bought a camera and had taken a picture of some mountain peaks. He then stayed late at work for a week and crafted a 9-inch diameter flying saucer out of cardboard and a 2.5-inch humanoid figure out of metal that he covered with twill. To create the photos, he spread crushed chalk on the ground, placed the models on it, presumably in front of the photo of the peaks, though not described in the article, dug a hole, presumably he got in it, but again not described in the article, and took the pictures. A photo of the models is shown underneath one of the photos Manguzzi claimed is of a flying saucer and humanoid, and the models look very much like what appear in the photo. John Keel wrote about Manguzzi's photographic adventure in his article, Never Mind the Saucer, Did You See the Guys Who Were Driving?, in the February 1967 issue of True magazine. In the section covering Manguzzi's story, Keel gives Manguzzi's age as 30 and presents Manguzzi's account of the initial sighting. After the account, which includes the information that the object was 75 to 100 feet away from Manguzzi, Keel gives Manguzzi's description of his camera lens and settings. Keel tells the reader that anything closer than 25 feet would be blurry with that type of camera set as described. In Keel's version of the events that followed, Manguzzi was inundated with reporters. According to Keel, Manguzzi claimed he was visited by an American secret agent disguised as a Bersagliero, military ski trooper, who interrogated him for an entire night and tried to get him to contradict his story. In this version, Manguzzi sold the pictures to the Italian magazine Polka, where they were published and identified, to Manguzzi's horror, as fakes. This outraged the Edison Society, of which his boss was the director, and Manguzzi was ousted from the society and fired from his job. Keel ends the Manguzzi portion of his article with this quote from Manguzzi: "They cheated me," told one UFO investigator. "This bad joke to the journalists has made me lose my job as well as my membership in the Edison Society. I was in fact out of work for a year and a half." The pictures turned up later in the 1976 documentary, Overlords of the UFO, just before the 8-minute mark. A newspaper with one of Manguzzi's photos fills the screen, and then the photos are shown, while a narrator describes the events that they supposedly recorded. In Lou Zinstad's account, Flying Saucer Review, Manguzzi and his wife came upon the saucer already landed, and he photographed it while it was on the ground and got 2 pictures of it taking off. In the film, the 2 pictures of it in the air are shown first, and the viewer is told that Manguzzi took pictures of the UFO landing on the ice. The viewer is then assured that the verification of these photographs was made for the producers by a Swiss researcher and Carl Gustav Jung's niece, Lou Zinstad. So, French magazine, Italian magazine, seeing the UFO landing, seeing it lying on the admitting to a hoax and showing models of bunkers and being betrayed by Apollo. What do a few facts matter when you've got pictures to add some zing to your UFO publication, documentary, etc.?
To find out more about our guest and all others, please visit our website at mysteriousradio.com. And I want to give special thanks to our co-creator and executive producer, Kim Kyle, who brought this show to you today. And working hard behind the scenes, our team of 4, I want to thank them as well. Follow us on social media and share the show with others that may like the subjects that we cover. I am your host, K-Town, and you're listening to Mysterious Radio. Hi there, I'm K-Town, and on this edition of Mysterious Radio.
UFO Abduction in Bahia Blanca, Argentina, by Charles Lear. Argentina has had more than its share of cases involving people reporting finding themselves transported, some while driving tens of kilometers to hundreds of kilometers after an encounter with a UFO. From the city of Bahia Blanca comes a particularly bizarre tale. The witness ended up in a hospital where he was reportedly examined by a multitude of medical doctors and psychiatrists. There is a report on the case in the March 1975 APRO Bulletin, and APRO directors Coral and Jim Lorenzen wrote about it in the updated version of their 1967 book, Flying Saucer Occupants. In the bulletin, the writer, very likely Jim Lorenzen, who was acting director at the time, thanks field investigator Jorge R. Martinez of Bahia Blanca for giving APRO the information on the case. According to the report, on the morning of January 4, 1975, Carlo Alberto Diaz, 28, was heading home after finishing a shift as a waiter at a private party. He bought a newspaper and then caught a bus. The stop where he got off was several blocks from his home, so he took a shortcut through a desolate rail yard. There was a sudden flash of white light that temporarily blinded him that he assumed was lightning. He didn't hear any thunder, and later described the light as broken. When he regained his sight, he became frightened and got it in his head to run the rest of the way home. When he went to do so, he realized he was paralyzed. Diaz then heard a sound that he compared to the sound of wind and felt himself being pulled up into the air. When he was about 3 meters up, he lost consciousness. When he came to, he was inside what seemed to be a semi-transparent plastic sphere that he estimated was between 2.5 to 3 meters in diameter. The inside was an empty space, and the light seemed to come from the walls. Diaz said that he was completely conscious at this point. He was half kneeling, half lying on his side. Underneath him were 3 holes about 3 centimeters in diameter, through which some sort of gas was flowing. Diaz said he felt ill when he turned away from the holes and got the idea that whatever the gas was, it was keeping him conscious. Then, according to the article, Diaz said 3 humanoids came sliding into the sphere. They are described as being around 1.8 meters tall. Their heads were mossy green, about half the size of a human head, and they had no eyes, ears, nose, or mouth. They were hairless, and their bodies were covered with a rubbery, light cream-colored material. Their arms were straight but flexible, and they had no hands. He immediately started pulling tufts of hair from Diaz's head and chest, and they jumped up and down and waved their arms as if this gave them delight. Diaz struggled, and then one creature held him, as another creature continued pulling out hair, and the remaining one watched. Diaz felt the softness of their bodies as they handled him, and realized that they had suckers on their arms that enabled them to pull his hair out. He also noted that he felt no pain as they did so. He said they moved slowly, but were strong and seemed tireless. When they were done, he lost consciousness. When he came to several hours later, he was lying in the grass and had to close his eyes because the sun was high and shining directly in them. He became aware that he was next to a busy highway. He looked at his watch and it had stopped at 3:50 a.m., which was the time just before his experience began. The highway was 30 meters away. A man driving by thought Diaz had been hit by a car, and he stopped. Diaz told the man what had happened, and the man drove him to Railway Hospital, 35 minutes away, where they arrived at 8:30 a.m. This was in Buenos Aires, which is said in the bulletin to be 785 kilometers north of Bahia Blanca, whereas Google Maps shows the distance to be 635.5 kilometers. When Diaz became aware of the time, he became convinced that he'd had an experience with extraterrestrials and their craft. At the end of the article, it is emphasized that the investigation is ongoing and that any new information will be presented in the follow-up column. In the August 1977 bulletin, there is an article headlined, Carlo Alberto Diaz was a hoaxer. The authors are listed as Roberto Enrique Banks and Richard W. Hyde. Banks is described as having investigated the case on behalf of the Centro de Estudios de Fenómenos Superiores en Space of Buenos Aires. According to the authors, Banks' investigation showed that Diaz's account was a hoax because the events he described could not have occurred as the witness claimed. They summarized the case, and their summary differs from Martinez's report. In Martinez's report, Diaz was taken by passing motorists to the railway hospital where he arrived at 8:30 a.m. and later, no specific time was given in the bulletin, went to Ferro Fierro Hospital where he stayed for 4 days. Diaz's wife and relatives were said to have arrived at midnight. In the summary from Banks and Hyde, Diaz came to at 3 p.m., hitchhiked to Railway Hospital, and arrived at 4:15. The authors acknowledge that their version differs from the earlier version and note that several versions have been published. The problem the authors have is with the timeline, which in Diaz's account appears exceedingly possible that he could have traveled the distance that he did in the time given. They surmise that he could have caught a train to Buenos Aires that left Bahia Blanca at 6:15 a.m. According to them, the records of the guard at Railway Hospital showed that Diaz arrived at 5:30 p.m., which differs from both accounts, and is certainly much later than the 8:30 a.m. given in Martinez's account. The results of Diaz's psychological assessments are offered, seemingly in violation of ethical standards, as further evidence that Diaz made up the story. According to the authors, it was found that Diaz had a rigid imagination, quick intelligence, but without depth, inclination to exaggerate, good memory, occasional use of poor judgment, and maladjusted personality. While APRO did its due diligence in publishing the follow-up report, the case still stands in flying saucer occupants, as originally reported, to lead unfortunate, less than diligent researchers astray in their search for the truth.
To find out more about our guest and all others, please visit our website at mysteriousradio.com. And I want to give special thanks to our co-creator and executive producer, Kim Kyle, who brought this show to you today. And working hard behind the scenes, our team of 4, I want to thank them as well. Follow us on social media and share the show with others that may like the subjects that we cover. I am your host, K-Town, and you're listening to Mysterious Radio. Hi there, I'm K-Town, and on this edition of Mysterious Radio.
UFOs over England, England, by Charles Lee. In last week's bulletin, we looked at UFO reports by Pennsylvania citizens that made their way from various agencies, including local police, to the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency, which recently released records of these. On February 2nd, 2024, an article by Billy Emmett, headlined UFOs reported to Essex Police, highlighted in data, was posted on the Daily Gazette website that describes sightings found in a list of UFO reports released by the Essex Police. This week, we'll look at some of the sightings described there, as well as others in the Essex area. The list, which has the title UFO Reports 2018 to 2023, and is identified as publication number 1379, is said to be correct as of 12 January 2024. The reason for its publication is described in a response to a Freedom of Information request by Natalie Myers that can be found on whatdotheyknow.com.
Essex Police have developed a publication strategy. Our aim is to reduce the demand within the FOI department and to provide knowledge to the public to include previous and combined FOI requests together with relevant links and information. Please visit this area of our website before submitting FOI requests, as information may already be available. According to him, in a Freedom of Information request submitted by Newsquest's AI team, there were multiple reported UFO sightings in North Essex to police from 2018 to 2023. This is a clumsy, inaccurate sentence generated by AI, but the meaning seems to be that the information on the sightings was contained in the response. The publication by the Essex Police only lists the year and the area of the reports. Below are the cases that stand out to this writer. In 2022, reports came from 3 aircraft near Stansted Airport of a UFO in the vicinity. The information came from the tower that 2 planes had reported a UFO about 500 feet below them as they were coming in to land on runway 22. According to the law, the closest plane was 20 kilometers away, and the pilots were alerted by the traffic collision avoidance system, but they could see nothing when they looked. Another pilot report from 2022 came from a Ryanair pilot in the Hertfordshire area climbing out of Stansted Airport at an altitude of 4,000 feet, who said he saw a black object that passed within 20 meters of the aircraft. 2 local civilian reports that stand out are one from Chelmsford in 2021 and one from Colchester in 2023. The Chelmsford witness said they were leaving a church at 21:25 hours that night, and at the church in Bethlehem in Chelmsford in front of them, they saw 5 to 6 lights in the sky. According to the witness, the lights were dancing round, but 2 shot off and then parted and disappeared. They were like balls in the air. The Colchester witness said that at 11:05 hours that morning, Monday, 5th June, 2023, they saw an oval-shaped metallic-colored object that was silent and moved quickly across the sky very smoothly, with no deviation in height or direction, but without any effects of the weather, is the only way I could describe it. Emmett focuses on a number of reports and ends the article with sightings described to the Gazette by 2 locals. The first witness is a Holland-on-Sea resident, Susan Valster, who described capturing an orange UFO on video in 2002 and seeing a triangular formation of lights in 2014, both while at home. She said that in the second case, she contacted the police and the Coast Guard to see if anything was out. She is quoted as saying, "No one has to feel silly about anything. I think it's important that if people see something that's strange, I think it should be mentioned. It's a very interesting subject, and I've never forgotten it." The second witness is David Young, described as an Essex-based radio presenter who hosts his own show, Strange Phenomena Investigations, doing his own paranormal investigations. According to Young, he saw a big orange UFO in 1967. He said, "They're pretty common in Essex, and there's a group I go to once a month to discuss them." The group Young mentioned appears to be the Essex UFO and Paranormal Group. According to his post on Instagram, just home from another great presentation from Andrew Collins at our Essex UFO and Paranormal Group in Southend, Essex. The group's website contains the information that, according to the Guinness Book of Records, the very first pilot UFO sighting report came from Essex in 1916. It is described this way. The report was made on 31st Jan 1916 over Rochford in Essex. Unfortunately, the source is unknown, but here is a brief description of the sighting as reported by the Guinness Book of Records. The world's earliest sighting of a UFO by a pilot occurred on 31 January 1916, when a British pilot near Rochford, Essex, reported seeing a row of lights resembling the lighted windows on a train carriage that rose up into the sky and disappeared. This is categorized as 1916/01/31 first by the Guinness Book of Records. Charles Lear is the author of Crashed Saucers and Malevolent Aliens, available at Amazon.com.
To find out more about our guest and all others, please visit our website at mysteriousradio.com. And I want to give special thanks to our co-creator and executive producer, Kim Kyle, who brought this show to you today. And working hard behind the scenes, our team of 4, I want to thank them as well. Follow us on social media and share the show with others that may like the subjects that we cover. I am your host, K-Town, and you're listening to Mysterious Radio.
Statements and opinions by guests and Mysterious
Again, our website is mysticconnections.org. All right, let's get into it. All right, I have with me tonight psychic medium June Lundgren to discuss the darker side of the paranormal. And June, I want to thank you for joining me tonight on Mysterious Radio.
I want to thank you for having me. I always enjoy speaking with you.
If you don't mind to tell us how and when you first discovered there were dark entities lurking in the world.
I was a child when I first noticed my gifts, and my grandmother, she was a psychic medium, and she knew instantly that I had abilities. And it was then that she taught me the difference between the good ones versus the bad ones, and how to tell if you're in the presence of a good one versus a bad one. So I've been doing it all my life, and it just becomes, I don't know any other way, it just becomes a natural thing for me. I can sense them even if I receive like an email or a phone call or a picture, I automatically switch and I can sense if there's a negative present.
Oh, wow. Now, so were they showing themselves to you, or could you discern a negative energy at a young age?
They would show themselves to me because I've always been able to see them. I just, when my grandmother really started to tutor me when I was around 5 or 6. And I came across a negative one, and she said, this is a bad one. And she would ask me, how do you feel? How does that make you feel? And I would tell her, when you're kids, like, oh, it makes my tummy hurt, or, I feel cold inside, that sort of thing. She said, well, that's how you can tell whether they're negative. She said, it doesn't matter what they look like. She said, because they can trick you. She said, you have to go by what you feel inside. And that's absolutely true, because they can appear to you as a child, as an animal, as a loved one. They can show themselves as an angel. Even though they are a fallen angel, they can show themselves, as an angel, an angelic appearance, and they're not, obviously.
You know what? It's interesting that you say that they can show themselves as a child or maybe a loved one that has passed. How can someone tell the difference?
There's a couple of ways, but you have to be very discerning. If you look into a good spirit's eyes, you'll see their eyes. You'll see what they were, what their appearance was in the physical world at the time. Say, they have blue eyes. Okay. And they'll just be a clear, crystal clear color. But if they're a negative, you'll see kind of like, have you ever looked into a mirror holding a candle and you can see the reflection of the candle flame in your eyes?
Yes.
That's what you'll see in a negative's eyes when they're trying to imitate someone, because that's the inner being of them and they can't hide that. That's one of the ways. The other way is when you're in the presence of them, you may feel nauseated, you may feel cold internally, which, can be 100 degrees outside, but on the inside, you'll feel cold and hollow. That's also another way. And you could ask them something that only the two, you and that other person would know. Obviously, if it's an animal, they can't answer you. But they usually show themselves as like a black creature, like, you've heard people say demon dogs, a black cat, that type of thing. Their color is always black. No matter what animal it is, it's always black. So that's why they have a tendency to show themselves as a cat or a dog, because those are more familiar colors for those animals.
I see. Now, can you tell us about the different types?
There are several different kinds. They fall into 3 categories. The first is what I call the old ones. They're kind of equivalent to an archangel. They have, excessive powers. They're the strongest of all the dark creatures. And then the next category is the lesser demons. They are the ones that you're going to find in the earth realm. They like to come down and torment us and cause problems. The older ones you rarely ever see in our realm, on the earth plane. But the lesser demons are more likely to be, scouting around for people that they can cause problems with or feed off of. And then there are the minions. Minions are everything from a shadow person to these little creepy, crawly creatures that, you'll see scuttle up the walls and on the ceilings and things like that. And then there are the earthbound negatives. The earthbound negative is a person that has been alive and they're nasty in life and they're going to be nasty in death. And so all they want to do is cause problems. But those are the easy ones to get rid of. The other ones, take a little bit more effort. The little creepy, crawly minion things are just kind of a pain in the rear. They just like to, poke at kids and poke at you and cause people to fight each other and things like that. But whereas the demons, both the old ones and the lesser ones, have a habit of, first thing you'll notice when, if one is around you for any length of time, is your health starts to fail. You start to have health issues. You start to have mental clarity issues. Feels like a black cloud's hanging over your head. Nothing's going right. They'll try to split up a family, try to cause fights between everyone. They will you'll have like horrible nightmares. You'll wake up every morning feeling like you don't have any energy at all, and they're just, it's just plain nasty. You may, they're kind of like stalkers in a way. If they decide to attach themselves to you or to your family or your home, they will watch. They'll wait and watch and see what you do, how you do it, when you're the most vulnerable, what your weaknesses are, things like that. They just kind of wait for the right moment. It may be like your house may have a heavy feeling around, there, like the air, like you cut it with a knife, but those are the only symptoms. Too many years of medicine. Those are the only signs at first. But once they learn of your weaknesses, they'll start trying things, moving things, poking you, giving you bad nightmares, causing fights between couples, and causing kids to misbehave, things like that. That's how they start out. And then, you know, if you either try to ignore them and say, oh, there's nothing there, then they really get nasty. And they try to slap you, they can claw you, they can bite you, you know, they can even pick you up. You get strong enough when they can even pick you up and throw you.
In your opinion, are issues with dark entities on the rise?
They are, and they have been since the end of 2013. And I had a long talk with God, and he says, listen, I just wanted to let you know that the light is starting to spread throughout the world. He said, and what you're going to see over the next several years is an increase in negative activity. He said, not only with these negative entities, but also with, you know, people's emotional issues, mental issues, a lot more paranormal activity, it's a lot more violence. It's just increasing. And I'm like, okay, so when is it gonna end? He says, I can't give you an exact date, but no, it'll be for the next several years. Well, that was the end of 2013. And that's when, right after he told me that, was when the school shooting happened in Connecticut. And it's been going ever since. They're so bold as to try to challenge me. I mean, I was coming home one night last year, wintertime. Yeah, it's dark at 8 o'clock at night in the winter. And I'm driving home, and all of a sudden I hear this horrible screeching. It's just like ear piercing, but I know I wasn't hearing it with my physical ears, but my inner ear. And I'm like, asked my cardiologist, what is that? Because I've heard them scream before, demons, but never a whole bunch of them at the same time. And it was just, she says, my grandmother, who is one of my guardians, says, yeah, these are demons, a mass amount of demons. Don't react. She said, just block yourself. And so I'm like, okay. And they're becoming more and more bold. Like, they don't care until I get there. But, you know, they're just liking to cause problems. And then, like I said, the light is spreading, you know. The light workers, it is literally spiritual warfare.
Now, do you still go out and help those in need if they have, like, an issue with a dark entity? Are you clearing houses and spaces and things like that still?
Oh yeah, it's like 2 weeks ago, I did 7 removals in a space of 5 days. And it's like it comes in waves, and that was a pretty good crest there, because usually I get, you know, 1, 2, maybe a month, but that was a huge crest. And yeah, if I can't physically get to them, as long as if somebody sends me like an email and says, I'm really having a problem in my house. In fact, I got one the other day. The woman says, you know, we're having problems in our house. Something negative is here. It's attacking my children. It's scratching them. You know, we're having all kinds of noises, and it just feels horrible. And the moment the person connects with me, I see what's there. And I told her, I said, you know, you have a portal, unfortunately, in your backyard all the way to the back of it. I said, and it's letting anything and everything in. And she asked me, you know, how long has that been there? I said, for at least a couple hundred years. I said, and you also have 1 demon and 1 minion in your home. That's what's causing your children to be scratched and attacked. And so I told her, I said, listen, I said, tonight I'll remove those, I'll close the portal, and she was back in Illinois, and remove the demons. I said, but I'm going to send you some black salt. You need to sage first and then put this stuff down right away. I said, this is a special black salt. God gave me the recipe years ago when I first started removing demons, and he blesses it at every step of the making of it. I make it by hand, and everything is blessed and soaked in holy water before it's prepared and left to dry in the sun. And, you know, so if it's a distance, I can do it through meditation. I can actually, you know, send myself there and remove these things. And, you know, people will report back to me, oh my gosh, it's all clear, there's no problems. You know, we haven't had any problems whatsoever, and thank you so much. And I'm like, that's what I do. You know, people offer to pay me, and I'm like, no, this is God's work. We don't get paid for God's work.
Now, shadow people, it seems what they are depends on who you talk to. In your opinion, what are they?
Shadow, you know, people say, oh, I don't know where they come from, what they are, anything like that. And when I was writing my book, The Dark Side of the Paranormal, and over the years, Ezekiel that's kind of his expertise. And we talked quite a bit about the origins of, you know, these creatures. And he said that a shadow person is actually a minion of, you know, a demon. And they really like to be on their own. They're kind of like a shark, you know, that likes to be on its own to do its hunting. You'll rarely ever find more than one in a location. And if you find more than one in a location, you really got an issue. These things, their whole existence is to see how they can torture people. They can actually kill you. You'll start having bad dreams, and you'll start having, you know, failed health. You'll wake up feeling exhausted, like you never went to sleep, day in and day out. And you'll have these horrible, you know, dreams. They're usually about death and murder and, you know, somebody sucking the life out of you. And that's because they are sucking the life out of you. It can actually even crush your heart and stop it. But those are in extreme cases. But most of the time, it just like to draw out your pain by sucking some of the life out of you, you know, each time, a slow way to do it, you know, over weeks, months. And then finally they'll just get either somebody will come in and help the person, or they'll get tired of you and move on.
Can all of these dark entities manifest enough energy to move things around?
Oh yeah, no doubt. They can, you know, they have, a lot of them will take the energy from you and the other people in the home. The more you get depressed, the more you get fatigued, the more you fight, all this negative energy feeds them and they grow stronger. They can, you know, literally pick you up and throw you down the stairs. I went to do a removal in Battleground, Washington, and I took the leader of our group with me. He's an ordained minister, and his wife went with me, and they tried to shove them both down the stairs. They could feel somebody shoving them in the chest, trying to shove them down the stairs. Fortunately, they were both holding on to the handrail. Otherwise, they would have been down the stairs. And, you know, they can scratch you, they can bite you, they can squeeze your heart, and they can stop. So the only ones I'll say that can't do a lot of harm are the little ugly little minion guys, that just kind of creepy crawly guys, I'm calling. They're just more annoying than anything, and they like to stir up trouble, but for the most part, they haven't got enough energy to do much of anything.
I know you were called to clear out demonic entities from the Shanghai tunnels. You had to go there twice, right?
I've been back again 4 times now. Well, it's the guy that owns the section of building where the Shanghai tunnels is at. He owns like part of the building, and that's where the Shanghai tunnels are underneath. But the other side of the building is owned by someone else, and people were coming down on that side and doing, you know, seances, switchboard, whatever they could do. Well, they open up the portals, but they don't close them again. So everything comes through.
Are there any places here in the United States where you've been called back more than once for demonic activity?
No. Usually when I get rid of them, they stay gotten rid of.
Okay. All right. Now, let's talk about Ouija boards. Can a person's actions open up a personal portal for demonic entities to enter into their space? I mean, I'm talking about something besides messing around with a Ouija board.
anytime that you mess with anything, I don't care whether it's a crystal ball, scrying, tarot cards, Ouija board, seance, you name it, that all of those things will open a portal to the other side. It opens a door, and if you don't, before you do any of those things, if you, ask in God's name that He give His blessing upon your communication with the other side, and that only the good be allowed to cross through or to communicate with you, that opens the portal. And at the end of your conversation or your reading or whatever, you thank God for for the communication and ask for the closing of the door. And that closes it. Most people open it without any thought for prayer, without any thought for protection, and just do whatever they want to do, and then they put away the board, and the portal still stays open.
Now, do you advise anybody to use a Ouija board?
If you're going to use it, there are certain things that should be done. The board should be cleansed with holy water. You should keep a cross on the board at all times. Now the cross must have, the crucifix must have the image of Jesus on it, and a Bible would also be good to be kept on it. Those are the things that will help to protect. If you're going that way, you're protected while you're doing it. You say your prayers, and then at the end of them, you ask for closure. And if you're going to do anything like that, that's the way to do it. And if you're going to use tarot cards, same thing. It's, well, you can't use, you say the prayers and ask for protection, and that way that you be given only the information that is for the person's greater good.
I didn't know that tarot cards open up a portal.
Oh yeah. Yep. Anything you use for divination, any tool for divination, that's what it does. It opens a door.
I was surprised that you named paranoia as one of the ways that people can attract dark entities. Why is that?
Because when you have paranoia, you're seeing negativity, or real or unreal, that doesn't exist, but you're seeing it. They're actually drawn to the mental illness, the mental condition. People with paranoia, schizophrenia, there's people that see hallucinations, any kind of mental illness or substance abuse, or even, say when you were younger you were messing with a spirit board, or you're doing seances, or you were, doing dark spells, but you changed and got away from it. But that residual darkness is still attached to you unless you purge it. You have to do what I call a white light cleansing to purge all traces of the darkness within you. And whenever I do a removal, I automatically do a cleansing for all that are concerned, so that what I do is I put white light into them and pull out all the darkness, everything that has any traces of the darkness. You may think that you've got to cleanse, or that it's because the spirit, the demon is gone, that it's gone. But it's not. This residual will attract further.
That really makes sense there. All right, I'm talking to June Lundgren about the darker side of the paranormal, and I have more for you when we return right after this. Okay, we are back, and now, June, let's talk about more dealing with the demonic. Now, there are some more things like smells and stuff like that. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, there some of the trade, signs and symptoms, so to speak. You'll see a gathering of insects. Sometimes it's bees, sometimes it's flies. A lot of people just say of flies, but it's not only that. It can be a gathering of ants, flies, bees, just any kind of insect creature, because it's easy for these things to control them. They're kind of really quite susceptible to the dark hunt. And also you'll smell like rotting flesh, rotting meat smell, sulfur smell. It'll be, the air will feel really, really heavy, like it does before a thunderstorm. You know how the air gets heavy. You'll feel that kind of a heaviness in the air. Sometimes you'll get, cold areas, or areas where your animals won't go. They're a huge indicator of negative entities. An animal will not go anywhere near the negative ones. They will back away from it. Sometimes, I hate to say it, but people get stupid and they don't pay attention to their animals. The animals are closer to God, so they have that connection with the other side, and they can sense those things, and they will not want to go anywhere near these things are. And unfortunately, these things will target the animals and kill them. I went in on a case back in March where just such a thing happened. 3 of the animals were killed by a negative entity, and they were working on 2 more that they had before I was called in.
So if your animal refuses to go in a certain bedroom or down a hall, you should really pay attention to that.
Oh yeah, you should.
Alright, guys, this is where I say goodbye. It's time for me to go into work. I'll see you guys later. Hasta la mañana. Till the next time. Adios, mi gente.